was being done out there along the road, there was also the expectation there would be some landscaping that would happen. And the question was exactly who's going to do what and how's that going to happen. And that's all been, I think, worked out in terms of how to get that done. And now it's just a matter of getting it done. And there would be the city providing some planting along most of the corridor between the river and the A1A. Not all of it. I think there's a few places that there's just a few issues there about where exactly they can do all of it. But that's their intent, is to landscape the majority of that roadside. And again, that was at request of the people that live in the neighborhood, and so they've certainly had a positive effect on what will be some nice changes out there. Also, as you know, we're working with several groups that are looking at planning. Embry-Riddle and the Chamber and others are involved with a project that they brought before the ISB Coalition, which are groups of stakeholders all along the entire ISB corridor out to Interstate 95 to the ocean. And that they have a project where they're going to spend some significant money on creating a model, visual aerial model where you fly down and in and can see what it might look like. So it's creating a concept, and this is not unlike what Embry-Riddle did with their own campus. And so they're working on that, and the city is participating with everybody financially to make this happen. In addition to that, there are other things happening. One in particular that I'm really looking forward to is this parking lot, public parking lot that would be located just to the east of Las Olas Restaurant. And if you have not been there, I've got to really encourage you to find a way to get there. It's just east of the peninsula, which is where the 7-Eleven is located. And one of the difficulties for them is that there's no public parking or any kind of parking really right there on ISB that is accessible. There's obviously a lot of private parking in and around that area, but it's certainly not public. So this is going to create an opportunity to try to help some of the businesses along there, and I know that will have some benefit for a restaurant that's right nearby, and I think it will help. Randall, if you have some people that are there that have access to that.
There's probably a weekend that doesn't go by somebody who doesn't get their card too. So that will help out.
Right. So hopefully there's a benefit there. And of course we're trying to do some work on A1A to provide some additional public parking as well. That's a little more long term and a few complications in there to get that completed. The Streamline Hotel is a project that's making a lot of progress. I've been out there lately. You see they're doing the site work now for the parking lot and the landscaping that would be in the rest of the block that Streamline is located on between Kemp and Fifth Avenue. So drive by there, take a look at that. That's amazing. They just got the historic sign, the blade sign that used to be there. So if you look at that and look at old pictures, you should be saying pretty much the same thing. A few little twists in there based on how they do signage today, but it really is sharp and it's lit up, and so that's a big change. And related to that is Kemp Street, and we are committed to working on getting the completion of a design and permitting, whatever's required to create what would be more of a pedestrian-friendly path that would go from Grandview east over to the ocean. Yes, that's in the planning works right now, and if it goes forward, we would make some additional improvements along there, so it looks better, so that the walks that are cracked right now, and this is next to the streamline, and this will help everybody with a safer way to get it. And that A1A, when you cross there in that crosswalk, that needs to be addressed. And we're also going to be working on some potential lighting there, pedestrian lighting that would actually let people know that crosswalk is there at night and during the day, and there's new technology and things that the Department of Transportation is willing to accept along A1A. And so we're going to try to get the best of the technology out there for safety purposes. The 146 to 148 South Grandview, it's a duplex that we own. I think there's been some discussion in here in this room about, should the city sell it? And the answer is not now. We've always intended to, at some point, sell the property. There's a vacant lot next to it. I think one of the comments was there's some broken concrete, weeds. We've asked for the clean with that. In the meantime, so we've had tenants in there. We've had both tenants leave, and it gave us an opportunity to go in and really clean up that property, because once you've had tenants in there for 4 or 5 years, it needs some additional work. And so, like everyone else, we have to get a rental license to reoccupy it, and that's what we're going through right now. And you'll see probably a big tent over the structure, because you need to make sure that you don't have any termite issues, and from time to time you're gonna have to battle that. And we've got another issue with that as we made our inspections. We want to make sure that that's clean. And really part of that work that we're doing is to make sure that when we are ready to sell, that we do so with a house that's been well maintained. And I think what the neighbors are concerned about is that we make sure that property that we own around it is well maintained as well. And so we're doing that.
Question for you, Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Sorry. The final decision to sell the property is the city commission.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's their decision.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, they'll make a decision to dispose of the property, lease the property, whatever they decide that they want to do in the future. So I honestly, I'd like to get out of the landlord business. But right now, we've got a police officer and someone from the fire department that will reoccupy it. We've got leases ready to go, but they need to wait until we've got that.
The reason of my question is because there was the gentleman, Mr. Nolan, that was here, that was trying to basically tell us to whoever wants to hear to sell the property, and we've been telling him that it's not our decision. It is not. We can advise, but it doesn't mean anything. At the end of the day, it's the city commission that needs to vote to decide on it.
Right.
Okay. That's why the question was there.
Sure. And at this point, it's my advice that I'd like to see the market is improving. That's good news for the neighborhood. There are people coming in, investing. It's a positive trend. I'd like to wait a little longer because we bought high and don't want to sell low. I want to sell a little, when the market gets just a little hotter there. And part of that is what we're doing in the rest of that neighborhood. We will do to make it the place where more and more people want to come to. And the neighbors are working on that, and it's really helped that they're involved in taking a lot of ownership in the neighborhood. And I can't say that in the past we had that unified effort to really do that. Now we're seeing that. So that's the good news. And hopefully we'll do our part. That brings me up to code enforcement. That's an issue that is really near and dear to our city manager and to the city commission. They want to see that stepped up. We've come through there and done some things with the rental inspections, and that's done a little bit. But we're also seeing where we've got some serious issues on the exterior of some of these buildings, the appearance standards, the zoning requirements, and it's just something that we only had so many code officers who they're not equipped to go out there and deal with all of the zoning issues. In fact, in the redevelopment areas, we're more well positioned to understand the nuances of the codes, the appearance codes, and everything. So what we're going to do is work more closely hand in hand with code enforcement to make sure that those changes occur. So there's some sweat equity on our part as redevelopment staff to make that happen. That brings me to the last point, which is the redevelopment project manager. And it's been stated here that redevelopment project managers are in the downtown area and they're in the midtown, but not in Beachside. And that's not true. Project managers work in all of the different areas. And there's two that have the title, but I am also a project manager because we're all team members. We work on each area, and what I've done when I got here was to assign accountability and responsibility so that I knew that I'd have one person who I could say, you are going to be watching out for this area. We used to have a person that had that job over on the beach side, but because of the budget, we've had to cut back significantly on the, with our staffing. So we have two less positions than we had a few years ago, and so I'm serving sort of a dual role of being the redevelopment director and accountable for everything, but I have a focus on making sure that on the beach side, if you've got an issue, you got a problem, I'm the one you can go to blame, but I'm going to be that person anyway throughout redevelopment. If we're not getting something accomplished or done there, come see me. And I'm responsible to the city manager, to the deputy city manager, and also to the through the city manager to the city commission, which also serves as the community redevelopment agency board members. So I just want to get that out on the record. I'm in. So buck stops here with me as far as something that's done or not done. Okay. That's pretty much my report.
I think the point you just made about cutting the budget, and I think the concern that a lot of people have is because Jason is a full-time on Beach Street.
Well, let me say that each project manager has some specialties. So Jason is going to help me with site plan issues and some zoning issues, and we need a pro forma done. He's an MBA. He's got special skills that he can get done in certain areas. Charles is going to be more of that hands-on person that deals with demolition and property management, and he's taking care of the streets team. He is the person that's involved with events. He handles a lot of things that we're not as skilled at to do. So we use our skills and our strengths where they're best suited throughout all of the redevelopment areas. And it's just that there has to be some assignment and accountability. So at the end of the day, I know that I have someone out there that I can depend on in these these different areas. And if I had another person over on the Beachside, that'd be great, but we don't have that. So this is how we're making it work.
So I guess my point I'm trying to make is, Jason does not overlook the Beachside. You overlook.
I'm accountable for the Beachside.
Beachside.
Yeah,
Jason is for Beach Street and Charles is for Midtown.
that's correct.
All right? Okay.
Yes.
So, any issues with anything that has to do Beachside is directed to you?
That's correct.
Okay. Out of the funds of the Beachside, is any of the two other guys, Charles and Jason, are they getting paid anything out of the Beachside?
Each one of us gets paid out of wherever we're working. In other words, we fill out a timesheet
Yes.
that has all the redevelopment areas, and we fill out every week what hours we're working on what project and where, and it has to be assigned to a specific area. Now, that's if we're specifically working an area. Now, what we work on, if we're working on the land development code revisions for all redevelopment areas, when you're doing that, you're not working for one specific area. You're working for CRA administration. So you're working for the agency. And when we're doing that is a separate item on a timesheet. And what that says is all of the redevelopment areas will contribute to the administrative work that we do. So when I am working on a budget, I'm working on all of the CRAs. All of the CRAs are going to pay their proportionate amount for my time. Okay, that's how it works. So in other words, we're accountable and have to be accountable for where we spend our time, and that administration time gets proportionately divvied up. And that happens not at the beginning of the year. When we do a budget, you don't know where you're going to be during the year and how much you're going to be working in each area, okay? But you got to start with an estimate in a budget so that you can start there, and then the finance department will at the end of the year true up. And the confusion is that some people are using that budget in saying somebody's getting paid over here and not over here. But it all comes down to the facts. And the facts are, we assign the cost to the redevelopment area that we work in and pays into the overall administration.
I get asked a lot of times, and I'm going to bring it out. A lot of people asking me, why is Jason and Charles getting portion? But you explain to me why now.
Yeah.
Why are they getting portion of the Beachside CRA money?
Right.
Are they getting part of that? The part of their pay comes off the Beachside when they don't spend a lot of time, nearly no time at all. But you answered, you're responsible for the Beachside.
Right.
But they still get money out of the Beachside CRA.
Yes, there's a percentage in a budget, and at the end of the day, we can show on the timesheets where we have worked. At the end of the day, everything and where we've worked, right down to the half hour. And
the Beachside would love to have somebody full time like Jason's super nice guy. Charles is nice for everybody. They do a great job.
Yeah.
But they spend a lot more time in other areas than the Beachside.
They have to.
Because they're designated for those areas.
They're designated, and it pays dividends because you know that area. You're not diluted through all these different areas. Midtown is a much larger area than any of these other areas. And yet downtown has its unique parts in that you've got the parks, you've got a downtown development authority that we are also staffed to by a written contract between the agency. And so we have a whole different set of activities and requirements of how we act in each of those areas.
So off your head, do you know what the percentage is?
Well,
Percentage-wise?
no, and I couldn't even tell you. We're working more than 40 hours a week, but we can only put 40 hours on that timesheet. So when we're working 60, 70 hours a week, that's just a number over to the side that doesn't mean a whole lot of anything other than we put more time.
The reason I'm saying this is because I know your schedule is super busy, super busy.
Yeah.
It's just the time that is being spent on other areas, and I know that, I knew that before, but the time's being spent on other areas and the time that's being spent on Beachside
Right.
is not equal to the other areas.
No, I spend a lot more time on the beach side overall. Okay. So that's where I have spent time. But a lot of that time, I'm going to tell you, a lot of that time is at 7 o'clock in the morning. You know, when you see me out there, or usually, getting a cup of coffee at Starbucks now, walking down the boardwalk, and then going into the neighborhood, and I'm out there, and I'm out there at the end of the day. Hopefully when it's a little cooler. I go out during the middle of the day because I've just got, people who need to, rehab a home or whatever they're doing, and I've got to go out there and look at it and approve building permits or whatever it is. We look at every permit, every single permit. If you want a window on your house, if you want a door, I go out and look at it. Is it compatible? Is this fence right? Is it going to fit in the neighborhood? I got to look at all of it, and they're coming in every day.
No, you did answer. Thank you, Mr. Berger. You answered the question. Anything else? Okay. Public comments, please. Amy?
Hello. Amy Pyle, 136 South Grandview. Before my time starts, can I ask you for one little clarification about the plantings, because I'm going to be asked about this. At the meeting yesterday, what I took away from it, and I didn't actually write it down, but that the plantings that were going to be done are going to be done in the next planting season, maybe in the fall, or did we?
I'm not sure I got any clarification on that at the meeting.
So we really don't know when they're going in.
Well, you know what? You've got a meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow night.
A neighborhood meeting.
Right. They're going to be asking me.
I would hope that we'd have an answer.
Okay.
So when Mr. Chisholm is there.
Yeah, he's going to be there, and we could save him some time.
He would probably like to have some answer that he can give you. Okay?
Thank you. All right, I'll just read my little thing and get out of here. I was recently shown a plan for East ISB that included roundabouts at Peninsula and A1A and a 12-foot wide sidewalk, which Mr. Chisholm said could be a reality for us within 5 years. This is a great first step to incentivizing quality development here. He also mentioned there are developers that are interested in building along this corridor, so I assume those projects will come before this board. As they do, I would ask that you consider the following. Just like a bridge through the Everglades, this corridor, East ISB, travels through an environment that is primarily residential. It is important to consider the existing ecosystem and work within it while doing whatever you can to preserve the best of it. And if we look at it that way, we'll do well. Here are 5 things I would ask of you as a board. Number 1, please realize that smart, desirable developments do not have to go sky high. There are a wide range of possibilities with some creative planning. If anyone points to a spot and says, this is the only thing we can build here, that's not necessarily the case. I wrote down that they're lying, but I don't really want to, I don't want to accuse anybody of lying, but there's lots of things that can go in that space. Number 2, if you honor the existing LDC without offering too many variances and incentives to developers on a case-by-case basis, you improve the chances of success because all owners can feel secure knowing what will be going on the vacant lot next door. Number 3, Daytona Beach has plenty of room near the interstate for a theme park type development with high rises and malls and whatever you like. But if you allow that kind of thing to squeeze out the quaint historical beachside, you are throwing away Daytona Beach's last opportunity to have the best of both worlds. Number 4, don't operate on the assumption that beach driving is gone already and the extended boardwalk is a done deal. There's a long way to go before those 2 issues are finalized, and redevelopment should not have to wait for these to fade. Number 5, even though you are just an advisory board, I believe you can become a proactive voice in bringing attention to our disintegrating infrastructure, sidewalks and streets in particular, as Reed talked about, doing some work in the neighborhoods, and I know, that's on the agenda or on the radar. East ISB is a start, but there are many of our roads that desperately need attention from the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Anybody else?
Ken Strickland, 1208 North Halifax. I realize you guys are just an advisory board. Mr. Berger is a paid employee of the city and the citizens. I'll ask Mr. Chisholm tomorrow night too. Where do these ideas come from about roundabouts and these development ideas along the ISB corridor? Where do y'all get those? Who initiates those? Do they come from the state? Do they come from HUD? Do they come from you guys sitting around drinking coffee and thinking about it and talking about it? Or maybe y'all go to happy hour or something. Where do those ideas come from? And then there's no input from the citizens until after y'all have these big drawings and plans and stuff that you toss out here to us.
Okay. Well, what I'll tell you, Kent, is that the ideas come from all different ones that you just mentioned. In other words, it can be DOT. I'll just talk about the traffic circles. Traffic circles were introduced, I think, with the E-zone. They were requested by our neighborhood down on the first ones that we put in down on South Palmetto, just south of City Hall here, and that really that was a neighborhood-driven request for these little circles that you see if you go down Palmetto.
Sure.
They have become, they were somewhat foreign in Florida. They are promoted by the U.S. DOT as a good solution, not in all locations, or you'd see them everywhere, but the U.S. DOT and a number of states have put in traffic circles in places because they work well. It's not just Europe. It's, South Carolina, they have a significant number. And Florida has come up with the traffic circles as something that they believe in certain situation works. You may have heard about the terrible accident in DeLand, and DOT at the top said something we didn't expect that they would say. You go back and put in a traffic circle. That's what we're putting instead of, at this very dangerous intersection on a Route 44, which is a very heavily traveled road. So there's a lot of different places it comes from, and now when you talk about ISB, it's really coming from staff going in and asking, how do we solve the problem? You talk to engineers, you talk to the transportation planners. What are we going to do to make sure we move traffic through here in the way that it's set up now? And traffic circles is an option. Will that work? So there's feasibility studies that have been done to see if that's possible and will that work. Let's go beyond just looking at it as it's got good potential here. Let's see if that's a good way to address traffic circulation in this area. And there's another benefit that's looked at. Again, this is the city planners looking at this and saying, look, this is something that might work. Usually when there's a project at staff level, who does the city manager talk to and consult with? He consults with the elected officials. That's his job. The mayor and the elected officials are people that he also is going to say, hey, look, I'm thinking about the idea of traffic circles. What do you think? So before anything is going to go out and we're going to start getting serious about something, you're always going to go and make sure that there's some at least interest in doing that. And you're not going to end up with everyone saying, what the heck are you doing? So it's not in a vacuum. And then if it's something that's going to work, let's come up with something we can show to the people what we're doing. And then you go out into the public process. And then it will come before the boards, there'll be meetings, and that's how it works.
One more question.
Yeah.
Where does our redevelopment director, you, stand with supporting Mr. Deneen from the county's 2-mile boardwalk or boardwalk extension that he is planning? Are we on board with that as a city without any input from the citizens?
I think.
Or are we, playing nice for right now and change our mind later?
No, I think we want to see the proposal. We think it has a lot of good possibilities for this area in putting that boardwalk all the way through. So we like the idea, and we think that we should be working with the county on that. And so I think from our end, we're supportive of what the county is doing. Now, I think that is we need to see more about what the proposal is going to look like, but we're very interested in seeing a proposal.
Y'all have any idea how the citizens feel about it here?
I'm not out there taking a poll of all the citizens on that issue. That's something we want to, again, explain the process. We want to see some kind of proposal so we have something to react to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Cheryl House. I live at 145 North Halifax, and I'm one of the Enforcement Code board members. I recently took a trip home, and I'm from Flint, Michigan, and that's been in the news a lot, and much of that area is very depressed and run down, much like our Beachside. And what one small town south of Flint did within the last year would blow anybody out of the water. It's the most incredible change that I've ever seen take place in a city in such a short time. However, the planning for this event started 5 years ago. 5 years ago, the town decided we're going to improve this city and do something high-end and make it a desirable place to live. And the end result makes Ormond look tacky. It is the most beautiful city I have ever seen. And it was not like that. It looked like our Beachside. What they did was they hired a civil engineer as their project manager. And he drew up plans for the entire city, which were many, many streets. And he also wrote MDOT, which is FDOT here, the grants, secured a $7.5 million grant, along with numerous other grants that they got from smaller, different locations. And all of them together came to an astounding total. But there is a lot of money out there to be had. It has to be well planned. It has to be written by a person who knows all of the details of the city and where every sewer, every electrical cord is. And this project, he started out 5 years ago with this project, and they had weekly meetings and invited the community. Also told all the newspapers what they were doing. They wanted to make this a beautiful city that people want to live in. And people came every week and kind of heard what they were saying. Pretty soon the interest died off, but he said we kept it up. We kept it in the newspaper. Everybody knew what we were doing, step by step. And the end result is beautiful streetscapes. The sidewalks have all been redone with beautiful brickworking out by the edge, beautiful flowers that hang on gorgeous lampposts, benches, even where the drainage for where the cars park was designed so that if water, there's sewers there, drainage, the water would drain off and go through a filtration system. And it's incredible because they had a little stream going through that park and it kept the water pure. I suggest that with this board, we start thinking bigger. We start thinking a lot bigger than what we're doing now. We're kind of willy-nilly all over the place. We have wonderful neighbors that are doing the best to make their neighborhood good. Surfside has organized, and they're probably the most organized of any of the neighborhoods. Smith Memento, where I live, where Linda lives, kind of the lost stepchild nobody knows about, but it's also the core tourist area. We get the most people coming to the Ocean Center and the Peabody and the beach. I mean, we bring in a lot of money in our area. And they walk outside of that Ocean Center and they see nothing but blight. It's an embarrassment to me to have my friends and family come down and be afraid to walk to the beach from my home. I live at the end of Earl Street, right on Halifax. I would like for our redevelopment board to start thinking of a plan that's a little bigger than what we've done. I want all three of these communities I would like to see all three of our neighborhoods get a comprehensive plan to beautify it, to make the streets not only beautiful but safe. And in doing so, we will get a lot more vacationers and tourists. We'll bring people in that'll want to live there. The homes have all started coming up in that area. You wouldn't believe how pretty they are. Little picket fences. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The civil engineer that was hired was a very dynamic man, and I went to the city office and talked with him at length. He even gave me all of his plans. I mean, it was just amazing how generous he was with them. And he told me the resources that they filed petitions for. They were denied the first time the grant went into the state because they didn't specify where they're going to move one little monument. And so they all marched over to Lansing to find out why this happened. So anyway, as a suggestion just to put in your caps and start thinking, we are one big neighborhood there. Surfside and Seabreeze and Smith's Memento, they're not three separate places. We're one neighborhood. We're one beachside community. And you are all over the beachside community. And I think when we start putting them together and making a plan that will make all of it beautiful, then we're going to have something. We've had good workers here. I appreciate Reed has been in our neighborhood a lot. He knows how horrible it is and how much it needs. And I don't think just asking the city to pay for flowers or asking somebody to put in new posts or new sidewalks here that people are tripping over is going to accomplish what we would like to see done there. So,
hold on, before you leave, can I say something? Go ahead, please. I want to say something. Please go ahead.
Oh wait, can I wait for you, and then I'll
Please.
jump in?
Sure. Let me tell you a little thing you can understand. You see this concept that you just said, to hire an engineer?
mm-hmm.
We came up with it about 5-7 years ago.
I remember that.
His name was Fishkind.
Mm-hmm.
He was the man that was supposed to go get some grants and get this beautification, this town, the beachside, everything. Unfortunately, at that time, we had some commissioners that were not all on board, so they voted him down. He was not hired by the city. Bunch of citizens, bunch of business people, we all got together, and we paid him to do a research. And exactly what you said, that Flint, Michigan, that little town did, that's what we did. Mm-hmm. Is he brought us major plans. He brought us everything that we can dream about. Same concept you said, and it was turned down by the city commissioners. Not all of them, but some of them, that are no longer part of this town.
Well, maybe you need to resurrect that plan.
And he's still around. And
he's still around.
He's still around. And he is, I'm sure Mr. Berger remembers him.
Yeah. Yes, sure.
Go ahead, please.
So I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I went to school at Michigan State in Lansing, and was in Flint quite a bit. And in fact, I'll be going back to Flint at the end of this month.
Oh, okay. We'll go to Fenton.
I'll
go there.
Yeah, I'll
and
go
I'll give you
through
the
there.
guy's name that I spoke to, the
Yeah.
dynamic man. I mean, I think he could sweet talk a whole city into doing just what he wanted, because he just had an enthusiasm and a love for that town. And what he put together is just unbelievable. And I don't know how good your plans were from this gentleman. They probably were very good. But selling it's a big part of that, and that's exactly what he does. I mean, he can sweet talk any city official into doing this. And he said what he did after he got these plans in order, it wasn't a matter of saying, let's have a discussion, what don't you like about it? And everybody getting up, well, I don't like this and I don't like that, which is what we hear at every one of these meetings. He would say, these are our plans. We have this option and this option. Which one do you prefer? And by golly, they all got done, and they were done well. And so I think sometimes we just need to change our thinking and our strategy with the public. And the newspaper is willing to write good articles, and if we submit them and let them know that we love this city and we want to make this city something spectacular that everybody in the United States is going to want to come and see, then I think things will get a different, more healthy kind of reception from the community.
Well, I can tell you one thing. This city, this place came a long way.
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago, it was divided. I mean, to the point that there was, everybody has they had their personal agendas.
Right.
This is the first in the past, since Mr. Berger has been around, and in the past, I would say in the past 5-6 years, that I see a lot of working together, everybody working together.
Yeah.
This is the past couple of years that I see the neighbors,
Yes.
neighborhood. As of before, they all had their different meetings, different association, and one did not know
What the other one was doing. That's right.
And the city commission was so divided. This is the first time that I see that they all working for one goal and one goal. We cannot make everybody happy.
No.
But at least we can all work towards the same goal.
I think that's true, and I think now is the time. We have good people on each one of these boards, and people that really do want to see some changes, some positive changes. And Reed, when you go there, go to Fenton, and I'll give you his card. Go talk to this guy. Tell him I sent you right up there to bring him back. Bring him back. I'll tell you what, he'll get it done. But anyway, I thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
And let's hope.
Yes, that's all we can do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have one thing to say, just hopefully make you happy down there on the Earl Street and on Halifax Drive. As you know, we have a great event every year. It's the Greek Festival. And part of these festivals now is we have some new land development code requirements, and so we review these festivals a little more thoroughly than maybe they've been done in the past. And one of the things that's been really voluntarily done with some of our prodding, but again, it's really to their credit. The Orthodox Church, the Greek Church, has stepped up to the plate and is going to, over the next 2 years, starting with Halifax Drive, do the perimeter landscaping. So where you see some of that wire and rope or whatever might be there to define the edges, it's all a little of this, a little of that over the years. What they're willing to do is come back and do some landscaping along the street, and that is a big step forward. And so hopefully when we see it, let's thank them for beautifying that whole block on, and eventually by next year we should see the other side done as well.
And we will do our part. Our building will be landscaping in the fall. Again, it was done 13 years ago. But
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ann Ruby. I live at 137 Park Avenue. I have three things. One is an observation. I'm from Massachusetts. I love traffic rotaries. I think they're awesome. One is a suggestion. I love the plan that you just outlined, and I know the city manager has 19 at-will positions that he can appoint. Maybe that engineer to move this forward would be a good appointment for that. And a question. At what point in like a development plan for ISB would the public be involved? After all the plans are drawn up? Will there be public hearings? Okay.
Yeah, in fact, right now we're looking at some grant funding just for some of the planning to work within the neighborhoods and get into that planning process. So there's a commitment to do that on the front end of this, and we're just looking at the options and the capacity of DOT and others to work with us. And then when we think we know where we're going with this, then we're going to start working with the neighborhood on the planning side of it. And planning is not just the road itself, it's what's going to happen on both sides of that road.
Right.
And we got off on the wrong foot a few months ago about the road, how things are going to happen, okay, as an idea. So we want to go back and come back with the neighborhood. It'll be a neighborhood planning process to work with everybody on what we can do there. And by the way, I'm not talking about bringing back what we did last time. Okay, let's make that clear. This is yeah. This is just about if you're going to develop it, or we talked about a trail, a multi-use trail, and what are the other amenities and assets that can be a part of the East ISB corridor in its planning. And so that's an interactive process with the neighborhood. It's not the city doing its own thing or the state or anyone else. It'll be a completely transparent process going through the whole series of steps. That's a lot of meetings. It's going to be a lot of. It's not come to City Hall and watch the board make decisions. In fact, it'll probably be these board members here out of their own interest coming to a meeting like that and themselves and just joining everyone else in the whole process.
Okay, so when would you anticipate that kind of thing getting started?
I have not. There's no schedule yet because,
Okay.
like I said, there's some grant funding that was a part of that process, as I understand it, and that's an effort they're going through right now to bring somebody on board that would be that, like the civil engineer example that was given, but someone who can help put ideas that are being discussed into drawings, be charrettes. If a charrette is
right.
That visual thing that Massachusetts, I'm sure, uses, and we would go through that kind of a process. So again, this is not a short-term process. This is a long-term in terms of over many months coming to some conclusions.
But are you think? Is it like we're looking at? It's going to start roughly in 6 months or 10 years.
Oh,
like if you had to kind of
that'd be as soon as we can do it, as soon as possible. I would hope that we can get something started as early as late summer, early fall.
Okay.
That's
cool.
when I'd like to see it. I'm not running the show here, but I think it's like to see it happen pretty soon.
But that feels feasible.
I think so.
Okay.
I'm
Awesome.
just not in control of the whole grant side of this.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Hello. I'm Deborah Jernigan. I live at 1208 North Halifax, and you mentioned making things more transparent this time, which is great. And I thought, I know you've probably heard this at community meetings, but my husband and I go to every community meeting on the Beachside. There are a bunch of very concerned citizens who definitely want redevelopment, but we want responsible development. And I can save you a lot of trouble when you're making your plans by letting you know, which you might already know, that there is a definite consensus among every community group on the Beachside that we want to make sure of two things: that there is a height limit in your plans of no more than 7 stories on the ocean, no more than 3 stories everywhere else. We want redevelopment, we want beautification, but we want a height limit. We want responsible development, and that we want no more beach driving removed. We want no more beach approaches closed. We want those things maintained because it's part of our heritage, it's part of our culture here. It's what originally made Daytona Beach famous. It's where NASCAR began. And those are two things that you can keep in mind when you're making your plans. That'll save you a lot of trouble when you go to the community meetings to get input, because you'll have a lot easier time talking people into it if you incorporate those two suggestions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jenny Nazak, 413 Harvey. It's nice to hear the conversation about the East ISB plantings. It's actually, in addition to beautification and, of course, creating habitat for butterflies and bees and all kinds of good stuff, it also ties in with one of the city's top priorities, which is stormwater infrastructure, stormwater management. When we plant things, when we go vertical with the plantings, it uptakes a lot of water. And on that note, I love seeing on the riverfront park the tall cattails growing up. Each time I come over the bridge, it seems like they're a little bit taller. That is stormwater infrastructure, and it's so cheap to get stormwater infrastructure in Florida because all you have to do is let stuff grow. And about our neighborhood, I think our beachside neighborhoods are such a treasure. And one thing interesting about the beachside, these old neighborhoods, is that they're inherently dense because of the small lot size and the narrow streets. They're quite dense neighborhoods. There doesn't need to be a whole lot of building up. All we have to do is add more people. And one of the first things I said in front of this board was that I was going to start doing research about what other cities are doing to address this nationwide problem of emptiness, vacancy. And I've done a lot of research and brainstorming, and I turned it into a mini TED Talk that I gave last month at this Elevate Daytona event. I don't know if anyone saw it or not, but I actually wrote something up, and I'll email it to you guys, summarizing the stuff that I found. But right here, I'll tell you, there are some cities that actually impose a tax on vacancy. If something's vacant for a certain amount of time, in recognition that there's value, that something being occupied and used it's really important. I mean, leaving things empty, obviously, it can be a crime magnet and things deteriorate and so on. So in recognition of that, there can be taxation. Even without taxation, there could be going to the landowner or building owner and asking them, hey, okay, I get that you're wanting to hold on to this and speculate, but in return, how about letting us use it for something? How about letting citizens use it? They use this empty lot for a community garden. How about opening this up for an art festival? I see a lot of big fenced-in parking lots. I was glad to hear about the public parking lot east of Las Olas. It's very exciting. And there's a whole mess of parking over there. So that just sits empty most of the time. I'd be real interested to how we could persuade some of those property owners. I'm sure it's an old conversation. I'm a relative newcomer. It's just real interesting. There's a whole mess of parking.
There's one person that owns all of that.
Yeah. I came from Texas. Texas is big. That's.
It's a day at the beach. That usually means a good time, fun, and relaxation in the surf and on the sand. But that hasn't always been the mood on Daytona's beach. During the early days of World War II, a day at the beach meant a first-hand look at the war. In early 1942, the war came to the shores of Florida in the form of German U-boats prowling the Atlantic coast in search of Allied shipping. Between February and May of 1942, German submarines sank 24 ships along Florida's east coast. This brought World War II home to the residents of Daytona Beach.
The war was right at our front door, so to speak, because we lived along the coast. People in the inland, I don't think, had the same experiences that we did.
The Germans had supposedly a fine fleet of submarines which could make it all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. So we were under threat of possible submarine either observation or actual landing and attack of some sort.
The German submarines, the first part of the war, were sinking a lot of the merchant ships that were traveling up and down the coast and giving.
That's the best way to do it. Attend all of your neighborhood meetings, but come to these meetings, go to the commission meetings, write your commissioners. I email my commissioner. I have a pretty good rapport with Kelly, but when I send out emails, I include the entire commission, the city manager, the mayor, everyone, so that they all get the message. Someone told me a long time ago, if you just write the city manager, he'll shuffle it away. It's harder for them to do if the whole commission has a copy. So, but make your opinion known. They're not going to knock on your door and ask you, but they do hold meetings, and that transparency is something you kind of have to seek out. It doesn't always come easy, but get out there and find out what's going on. And if you have a strong opinion about something, make your opinion known. And like I say, let your commissioner, let all the commissioners know, and the county council. I've got them grouped on my email, so I can just hit a button and send it to everybody all at once. And I guess that was my only comment: is if you want your opinion known, make it known, but do understand there's people out there who have the opposite opinion who are also making their opinion known. So it's something that our city leaders, our county leaders kind of have to weigh out and balance. And most of the issues that I've heard even discussed tonight are kind of, divisive in this community. There are people who want beach driving, there are people who want it gone. And they're about equal from what I find. The Beachside, not on the Beachside community, but it's citywide, and what's good in one part of the city affects the whole city. So that being said, just do make your opinion known, but it's a democracy, so we accept what the final decisions are made. Hopefully, the majority rule will work. That's all.
Thank you, Linda, please.
I'm really pleased that the residents have come and have spoken up on things that need to be done. And I hope that continues, and I hope more and more people come, because that really is important. The other thing I would like to bring up is the code enforcement report that we got this time, which was terrific. I really appreciate getting it. One of the things that I noticed and I suspected was that there's very little code enforcement that's done in the Smiths Memento area, north of Maine, south of Seabreeze. It's a fraction of what's done, and that is the fact that code enforcement is concentrated on Surfside neighborhood is really good, because once they concentrate on a neighborhood, they can really clean it up. Now they need to move to the north. They need to be north of Main Street and concentrate there and see if they can improve that area.
If I can comment on that one. They don't, code enforcement, and I think they're going to be over at the Beachside Neighborhood Watch tomorrow, right? Hector Garcia, who's the head of that. But unless something's changed and I don't know it yet, they don't have any systematic process where they go into one neighborhood and they're just there and they're all over the place, and it's generally based on complaints. So my guess is why we're seeing a lot in Surfside is there's probably a lot of complaints by at least a few people who've been actively out just trying to make sure that some things get taken care of. That's just my observation from seeing that same report. and that we probably aren't getting as many of those complaints registered over in the other. They drive by, they look, they see something that's obvious, they're supposed to go out and deal with it. And quite frankly, that applies to every employee in this city. When we drive around, if they know there's a code issue, not everybody knows the code or knows how that works, but those of us who do need to get that information back, and so that's something that we contact code enforcement and let them know, and they create a case for that issue. I can tell you that right now, probably Surfside has just got a lot more activity going on right now. And you and I could go back and probably find several to write up, right?
We definitely can. And I looked online at the information on the church that's for sale on the corner of Earl and Peninsula, and realty companies put out all of this information about the surrounding areas, the number of sexual predators that are there. And the one thing that I thought was very strange, actually not strange, but disturbing to hear, is in that area surrounding that church, which is where we live, it's 70% either vacant or renters. Only 30% of the homes in that area are the residents own that. And so that's why you have so few people calling in complaints on things, because renters are not going to do that. And a lot of it is vacant. They just need to concentrate on that area without having called in complaints all the time, what Cheryl and I have done. But I think the code enforcement really needs to focus on that area and see if they can't start improving it, because of all the vacant property there. It's a real problem for the city.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think we can say that the same is true of some other neighborhoods on our beachside, and that rental rate is pretty high compared to home ownership. The good news is the trend is towards home ownership. The good news is we have some grants to help make that transition for those who want to change from a rental to a homeowner, home ownership for homeowners. We don't incentivize, like we used to, providing grants to rental property, because it really was not, I thought, the wisest resource or use of our resources. We have grants specifically for homesteaded properties or those, and we provide additional grants for those that will be changed from a rental to a homeowner property, because that was the goal of the commission. They did this several years, about 5 years ago, where we changed those grants. So and they're all on the website for us to look at.
Well, there is a way to change the rentals to make it better for the area, because right now I think most of the rentals in that area, they don't do background checks. There's a lot of drug sales and things like that going on in there. But if you look up Airbnb, I know the city is starting to talk about that. With all the vacant property in there, people could buy those homes, renovate them, and rent them out. I looked just before I came over here, and there was just on Airbnb, there was only one house that was listed in that area, and that was on Peninsula, and it was sold in 2011 for $19,000, and then it was sold in 2014 after being renovated for $153,000. It's now on Airbnb as the only vacation rental in that area, charging $250 a night with a 4-night minimum. Well, if people bought a house for $11,000 or $20,000, renovated it, put it on Airbnb, the city would make money on it because they would get the bed tax. The county would make money on it. You'd make owners would make a lot of money instead of renting it to someone that they don't even do a background check and are probably criminals on there. And there was 70% of the homes there, either vacant or rental. That's a huge percentage. And it would be everybody that wants to come to the Ocean Center for conferences. It's a huge thing that people could invest in that, improve it, and make a lot of money. And then if it eventually is sold to somebody who wants to live there full time, fine. But it just needs to be improved right now. Vacancy needs to be ended. So that's what I'm pushing for right now.
Okay. Well, just so everyone knows, it is an issue, and we do have a zoning ordinance that makes it very clear that in these residential areas, throughout the city, you cannot have an Airbnb. You can't have short-term rentals. Anything less than 6 months is not permitted in those areas. They're permitted in the commercial areas, the same place you would find a hotel or motel. So if there's houses in those areas and they're zoned properly, that kind of accommodation could be permitted. Now, if it becomes a bed and breakfast, there are some much stricter rules on bed and breakfast as there is opposed to, say, a different kind of rental. So I just want to make that point because there would be a major change in the way that the city addresses these short-term rentals than what we have today. And it was really put in there, and it was intended to protect the neighborhood. And I understand there's a desire by some to change that, but it'll have to be something that is going to be addressed and is being addressed right now internally with the issues of whether or not there should be some change. And so the city commission is very aware of it, and I think staff will be providing information regarding those.
Well, I agree that there are issues with it, and I didn't know what Airbnb was a couple of months ago, and the city commissioners, they were talking about it was new to them, but then they have recently, as they travel, that's how they travel. They go with Airbnb. I'm going out to Portland next in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be with Airbnb. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just the way people are doing. If nothing else, it takes homes and it improves them, and it's a way for people and the city and the county to make money. Right. And so if we have to just go with it now while it's popular, it may not stay popular all that time, but at least that would upgrade the neighborhood, mm-hmm. and then it could go in the normal direction. So I hope they think about it.
Oh yeah, it's just like Uber and versus taxis, and how do you deal with all these changes with our society and how we're moving? They're trying to deal with it right now.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Teresa?
Well, am I on? Yeah. I am on. I don't hear myself. Sorry. I want to thank everybody for coming again and letting us know how they feel about the area. And I do understand the apprehension as things move forward when things start to happen. I start to see things happening. I know things happen very slowly in our area, but at least the mention of something happening and getting excited a little bit about things that might be happening are very exciting. And I understand the concerns of making sure that they're happening in the right way and that the community is involved in that. So I'm excited for it to come forward to us so that we can look at it and continue to keep coming and continue to keep expressing your opinions and your thoughts and your wishes. We're here and we hear you. And as you continue to come, we make sure that we're making the right decision, not only just for the community, but also where we all live and do our business. So we appreciate that. I do drive up and down the Beachside every day, and I live over there. And I know that certain projects are happening out there, and I see them, and then I see them kind of stifle a little bit. But I did notice just the other day that the Proto Group, the Russian hotel, the side that they're building the parking lot on, they were actually out there the other day again. So, I'd love to see activity. I love to see their cars parked out there and the guys working. and kind of seeing what's going to happen over there now. What are they putting up right there? What is that going to mean? Does that mean it's going to come up quick? I can't wait. So, that's happening over there. And I know the Westin Hotel, the Desert Inn, they're diligently working over there. There was a pause for a while. Now they're diligently working over there constantly. So I'm seeing that happen. Streamline, been hoping and hoping and hoping for them to get that going. I'm glad they took the other area for their parking. And so starting to see that. I can't wait to drive by and see the sign. I haven't seen the sign yet. So all these things are happening, and learning about all the things we're talking about as far as maybe that walkway and things like that. I just think things are getting better. It's at a slow pace, but I think there's so many things happening all at once right now that I don't want to get overly excited, and I know things are taking time, but I just think that it's all going in the right direction. And I think it's going slow enough to keep the right pace to where it's not scary, but fast enough to hopefully get it done quicker is what I'm hoping. So, but that's all I have. Oh, and I also wanted to say to the Beachside Redevelopment Neighborhood Watch, their newsletter that they put out. Thank you for putting the nonprofit Friends of the Bandshell free bandshell concerts in there, so everybody knows that those concerts are happening on Saturdays and all that good stuff. And there's some great coupons in there also, so take advantage.
Thank you, Teresa. Randall?
I actually just had two questions. I didn't get to the Beachside Neighborhood Watch meeting to, I guess, discuss about the planters in ISB. I think they did talk about it. Was it going to be planters, or was it going to be more in-ground plants, like in the grass along the side of the road?
It's in the ground. There's not a raised planters, except in front of your property, where we'll probably put a wall.
Thanks.
No, just kidding.
Yeah, I was just curious about that.
You asked.
Stick my foot in my mouth. So there is not going to be any planters like, example, like Main Street style planters up and down the avenue there?
No. Then this again, it's a temporary beautification. It's there as we go forward, we figure out what we're going to look like in the future with East ISP. Then we'll come up with something different.
And second question was, when Bayshore first came in here when I was on the board, it had been 5 years ago, they were proposing, I do remember they were proposing, I don't know if they went through it or not, removal of the power lines on International Speedway, A1A, South Tissler Reach, and putting them underground. Is that still in the works, or?
Well, nothing happens until there is a hotel.
Yeah.
And so then we get some of the benefits. South Atlantic would finally have some funding, so we could really do some of the things out there that need to be done.
So it's just stalemate until they...
Well, the little silver lining always is that they just re-signed a lease down on Beach Street for their sales, so that they're having to reset on some of the issues with the condo sales.
I don't know if it was rumor. Mostly what I'm hearing is I guess they're involved in some lawsuits or litigation or something.
I'm not aware of it. I'm not aware of it.
Probably rumors.
No.
Okay.
What Mr. Berger said is true. I mean, they just renewed the lease, and it's let's just say that in that kind of field, the condos and all that.
It's a long time.
Teresa said it. Just 2 speeds, slow and slower. And let me tell you what, it's like I can tell to everybody, patient, but things are going fast. Going later. Go ahead, finish your.
No, that was it.
Okay. Sorry. First of all, I want to thank all the citizens for coming. I hope there's a lot more at every meeting. I want to say, we said again what Mr. Newman said. There's always two kinds of opinions. There's everybody has a different opinion about the way Beachside or Daytona should be. But I can tell you one thing. In the past 20 years, every group that had a different opinion came to some kind of agreement. Some kind of agreement. It didn't matter. And believe me, I'm sure a lot of people know about the E-Zone. When the E-Zone first came out, it was the great devil. Everybody was against it. Everybody without even thinking about it. When the city put a big forum at the Peabody, I was against it before I even looked at it. I'm not going to deny it. I was against it because I'm not going to give up my properties for what the city wanted to do it. But every time the city puts something on paper, there is forums. There's the public are there. You give your opinion, and you have to give your opinion. And I'm telling you, like I said many times, I was on both sides of the fence. I was fighting the city. I'm now working with the city. Unfortunately, there's only one speed. It's very, very slow. I can tell you that the Ocean Walk took 17 years to build. 17 years for one building. That was the last building that came up. So all I can tell you, folks, is a lot of patience. But there's a lot of things happening in town. I can tell you, there's a lot of things happening in town. And again, thank you for coming. And that's it. Anybody has that's it. This board is adjourned.